John McCain earlier, Doctor, and he was telling me that a lot of these attacks are getting personal, in particular when it comes to Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, maybe too much so. What do you think?
Well, it's a game that I simply refuse to play. I don't get in the mud pit and do that. We have too many important issues to deal with. And
do you think Ted Cruz and Rand Paul do?
I don't know. I just know that I refuse to get into the mud pit because I'd rather discuss the issues. I think, they are courageous people. Both Rand Paul and Ted Cruz are courageous people. And they don't have their finger up in the air looking to see which way the wind is blowing. And that's something that I admire. And I think a lot of other people admire that too. What I'd like to see people start doing is actually discussing the real issues. And, people who have a problem with me, I'm always happy to discuss the real issue. Don't talk about your problem with me. Let's talk about the issue, because very frequently they can't talk about the issue, and therefore they have to talk about me.
The big issue for you started to be growing concerns about the healthcare law, and how intrusive it was, how unwieldy it was, a lot of things and criticisms that have proven pressing. Now a lot of your critics come out and say, well, what does he know about some of these other big issues? He's just a doctor, maybe a great doctor, but what does a doctor know about all this other stuff?
And I would be very happy to discuss that other stuff with them. I think they might find that I know a lot more than they think.
So when you were getting these rounding ovations when you were speaking at CPAC, did it tempt you to think, as many of your supporters are saying, run for president?
No, it didn't tempt me to do that at all. But
why did you go to this event?
Because I was invited to come and talk. And I'm invited to come and talk at a lot of places. And I think it's very important to get a certain viewpoint out, a viewpoint that deals with common sense and logic. This is what we have to do. One of the things about physicians is that we're taught to look at evidence and make decisions based on evidence, not on ideology. So as a result, even though in my medical career there was a fair amount of controversy, because I pushed the edge and I pushed the envelope and did a few things, and there was controversy about it. But the controversy would always settle down when we looked at the numbers, we looked at the results, we looked at it short term, we looked at it long term. And that's the way we ought to do things, when we're talking about the health of the nation as well. We have lots of precedents for some of the things that we're doing now, and they haven't worked. We look at the things that have worked, and we should take those things and we should expand on them. The things that haven't worked, we should get rid of them. Why is that such a difficult concept? And people don't want to talk about it. They rather call you a name and try to say that you're this, that, or the other.
And both sides do it, don't they? But
yeah.
Did you read any significance, Doctor, in the fact that the three who did not poll well, including those all below you, were more mainstream, work with the other side, Republicans? They said that that's the way to do it, that's the moderating approach to do it. Apparently those at CPAC didn't like that.
Well, I think we could all sort of take a step back. What I would love to see, this would be a great thing, by the way, if we removed all labels from the ballot. So you didn't know if the person was a Democrat or a Republican. And you had to actually know who they were and what they did.
That's not a bad idea.
It would be a tremendous idea. And, we need to stop all of this polarization and talk about the actual solutions to our problems. It's just like with healthcare. I talked to one of the top officials in the administration before they passed the law. And I said, there are many things in this healthcare law that I agree with. I think most everybody would agree with. Wouldn't it be wise to take those things and use them to start, make that the foundation, and let's build it together, rather than just jamming it through with one party with unanimous opposition on the other side, which will only create animosity, will never result in a cordial working relationship, will cause your party to lose the House, may lose the Senate. He said, you're probably right, but this is Washington and this is politics.
But there are many Republicans, Doctor, who have the strategy now, particularly with this healthcare law, is to run with it, go ahead and agree to raising the debt limit, don't get in any big spending fights right now, keep your eye on the prize, the November midterm elections, and after that 2016, do not work with this White House, do not work with Harry Reid, do not work with Nancy Pelosi, and just make it all about killing this healthcare law.
But I think it's not just about killing a healthcare law. It's about having something that makes sense, that people can understand.
But a lot of people think Republicans don't have any backup plan. It's just rip this thing apart and let it die.
There are backup plans. That's why we have the Save Our Healthcare initiative going on, and a lot of people have signed on, because I want to have enough people sign on that I can go to the Congress and say, look how many Americans actually want us to look at some alternatives, and here are some of the alternatives. We just can't keep going down this same road that is not working.
And what did you think of some of the Republican governors, sir, who said it's unrealistic to think we can kill this law? In other words, we have to work with it. We as governors have to work with it. We don't like it, but the idea that it can be sort of just buried or annihilated, paraphrasing here, unrealistic.
Anything can be done, but again, we have to go back to what is it that we're trying to do? Are we trying to score a political victory and just say, you guys were wrong and we're right? Or are we trying to create a situation where all Americans have good health care and it's affordable? What I just said is something that is eminently achievable. We spend twice as much per capita on health care as the next closest nation, but we have, horrible access problems, terrible inefficiency. These things can be overcome. They can absolutely be overcome if we stop playing politics and decide that we want to fix it. And we, the American people, are going to be the ones who have to do this. You have to know who your representative is. You have to know how they voted, not how they said they voted, but how did they actually vote. You need to get together with your friends and neighbors. You need to talk about it. You need to talk to your 87-year-old aunt. You need to talk to everybody. We need to bring them back into the process. More people did not vote in the last presidential election than voted for either candidate. We need to bring those people back into the process. And
so you don't think we're so divided now that that can never happen?
Absolutely not. We're not stupid people. We're reasonable people. What has happened is that we have allowed ourselves to be manipulated by the people who like to stoke the fires of division, the whole divide and conquer strategy. That's why you see the war on women, the war on age, income wars, race wars, all of this stuff is absolutely a bunch of garbage, but they need this in order to improve their standing, to increase their status, and it doesn't work. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And reaching across the aisle, there's no problem with reaching across the aisle as long as you maintain your principles. And we don't have as much.
But you're not saying John McCain and these other guys are unprincipled.
I'm not saying
so
that.
You think Ted Cruz overstepped it when he implied that?
I'm not sure that he said that they were unprincipled.
We have to stand by our principles.
I think what he was saying, though, is you have to really have a spine and stand up. And I agree with him on that. Doesn't mean that you can't reach across and be cordial, but you have to have a spine. You have to know what you stand for. And a lot of those people who have tuned out, who say they're just waiting to die, and I run into them so often, it's because they don't think anybody really represents them. They think people are just going to have a jelly spine and go away.
Yeah. Doctor, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. You're going to hear more on this with John McCain tonight on Fox Business, what he thinks of the kind of stuff the doctor was saying.